It's something we lose sight of that in the West. So, one of the things that's been very challenging for me, gaining the experience of being with CIA, is understand, like, you really start to see the problems with your own country. When you spend so much time in other countries, you really start to see the problems with your own country. And one of the things that's really challenging is when you see how blind Americans have become to the fact that we are the richest country in the world. Even your poorest, poverty-stricken American makes 10 times what the average poverty-stricken person in the world makes. So it's insane. Like, the fact that we say that it's a sad thing that people only eat fast food, they still eat.
Yeah.
There's people all over the world who don't eat, who can't eat. It's common in many parts of the world still to sell and trade your children in order to make sure you have enough food to feed the children you didn't sell or trade. And I don't mean like selling and trading into like slavery or into trafficking. I mean like selling and trading into marriages, into community diversity programs, like all sorts of stuff that we just can't even conceptualize here because we are so wealthy we don't even feel those pain points.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, if you're born and raised in the United States, you are so incredibly privileged. That's why there's so many people in this country that have lost sight of that. They're like, oh, I'm so oppressed.
Yes.
But it's like it's 2023. Everybody has an iPhone. If you live in the U.S., if you're tweeting how oppressed you are, you're not freaking oppressed.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's super. And we get wrapped up around these things that we call injustices, right? Whether it's race-based or age-based, or whether it has to do with, how animals are treated or how food is farmed. We get really hung up on what we call jokingly first world problems. These aren't actual problems. These are problems that only exist in the United States where it's a first world country. Even Europe, which is the closest thing to the United States, isn't anywhere near as wealthy as the United States. And a lot of that is because the way their government is structured, right? Here we have a government that incentivizes wealth creation and wealth generation. In Europe, they have a government that doesn't encourage wealth creation and wealth development. It encourages wealth distribution, right? That's not good or bad. It's just the way it is. So as a result of that, they have lower GDP and lower income per capita than what we have here. Because yes, everybody hates the 1%, but the 1% are what bring up the averages for everything else in the United States.
Fascinating. Yeah, I love spending time in Europe. If you didn't, you live in the U.S., right?
Correct.
If you didn't live here, where in the world would you live?
New Zealand.
New Zealand? I've never been.
Oh my gosh. You want to have an excuse to take a trip somewhere where you have to have multiple legs. Go to New Zealand.
Interesting. Why do you say that?
It's all the best parts of the United States combined with like an old world charm and a self-contained country, right? They are so far removed from everything else that they've essentially created and cultivated a food economy where they only need their own island, right? So they can export, but they don't often export because it's easier and cheaper for them to just be, local farm to table kind of stuff for their own people.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, a lot of the rat race and the pressure of economic prosperity doesn't really strike them. So culturally, they're very laid back, very laissez-faire, very friendly, open people.
Amazing.
And what ends up happening is people from all around the world who go to New Zealand get bitten by that New Zealand culture, and then they stay too, and they adopt the culture. So then you still have diversity in the country, a diversity of skin color, diversity of intelligence, diversity of background, but culturally everybody adopts this whole come on in, have a seat, I'll make you a chai latte and we can eat some broccoli and lamb.
I love it.
It's glorious, man. Yeah.
Dude, the meat from there. We work with First Light Farms, which is a New Zealand-based. They produce Wagyu, 100% grass-fed, beef products, and also wild game, like elk, venison.
Oh, yeah.
My freezer right now is packed with meat from First Light Farms, and they're based in New Zealand. And I just know, the meat production there is pristine.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see their factory process down there because they farm in mass like we do, but it's not factory farming, right?
Right.
You go down there and you see a sheep farm, and it's just incredible how it works. You see these sheep that are grazing on open fields, and the fields are pristine and beautiful, and then the sheep go through this process where they're constantly sheared, constantly optimized to create the next round of wool. And then like the farmers make money off the wool, they make money off the husbandry, they make money off the grazing land, and then only when needed do they then make money off of the slaughter. And they plan for the slaughter by making sure that whatever animal's about to be slaughtered has in its history provided more offspring that offset the loss when it's slaughtered, right? So it's very much like it's a machine that's built with an eye of we're not going to import from somewhere else. We're going to keep ourselves sustainable.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I love it. That's so cool. I want to go. I've never been. I've never been to Australia. I've never been to New Zealand, but
it's a long trip. But
yeah.
once you're there, just stick around for a while.
Yeah. Well, I'm a huge fan of Flight of the Conchords, which was like a comedy duo. Do you remember that?
I do.
That show? Yeah, they were like a New Zealand comedy musical duo, and and ever since becoming a fan of theirs, the country's been on my radar. And then, of course, finding out about like the meat production and all that stuff. How many countries have you been to?
So I did this math recently, and I think it was 30-ish, 32 maybe.
Wow.
It's of the 7 continents, I've been on 6 of them. And there's still, there's 168, 167 countries, depending on whether or not Sudan is going to split again. So, yeah, there's new countries that are born pretty often. So.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. So not long ago, Sudan split between Sudan and South Sudan. That added a new country, right? We just had a coup in Niger, and Niger was kind of like the hub of democracy in all of West Africa. If Niger splits, if there's any kind of civil war that creates 2 new countries there, that can happen too. And you've got countries inside of countries, like Lesotho inside of South Africa. So it's really interesting the way that the world is subdivided. Our 50 states are pretty steady, but that doesn't mean everybody is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Who knows whether Ukraine will stay one state?
Do you speak any other language?
So this is another place where the media get espionage wrong. So I have learned 4 languages total. I have been fluent in only English, right? We generally learn languages up to a base level fluency, like a 5th to 8th grade fluency, because it's not actually operationally advantageous to be native fluency in a foreign language. Because then when somebody has that level of fluency, they're very memorable, right? I don't know if you meet somebody with a really strong French accent, or if you meet somebody with a really strong Latino accent, they're actually easier to forget than when you meet someone who looks and dresses like a French person, but they speak perfect New York English. Because then you're like, where did you learn your English?
Yeah, it's
right?
like cognitive dissonance.
Correct. And that makes enough of a impression in your short-term memory that your short-term memory will move that memory into long-term memory.
Fascinating.
And then that's not something you can control.
CIA believes that all people are born with a spy secret superpower. For some people, that means they can win deals. For others, they can spot liars. Some can even seduce lovers. I built a free 3-minute test to help reveal to you exactly what your secret hidden superpower is. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, take the test, and start using your spy superpower to stay ahead of 99% of people.
Because it's happening, the other person is doing it. So the goal then is to make sure that you always fit the cut of not memorable, so you can increase the probability that you'll never be moved to long-term memory.
Wow. And you're also like ethnically ambiguous. Like
Which is nice.
Yeah. Has that helped your career?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Being what I call ambiguously brown has been a fantastic benefit, because nobody ever sees me and thinks that guy's American, right? And when I speak English, or when I speak a foreign language with an American accent, then they hear that I am American, but everybody assumes in the world that America hates everybody except white Americans.
Interesting.
So it's like an instant bond when you're a brown American overseas, because then they're like, oh my gosh, I've heard about your country. You must have like a really hard life there, right? And it's just this instant bond with somebody.
What is your background?
I'm 3/4 Mexican, 1/4 Navajo Indian.
Wow.
And it comes out looking like somebody from the Middle East.
Or wherever. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't place you. And where were you born here?
I was born in Arizona and then grew up in Pennsylvania
Nice.
before I joined the military and became kind of I've lived in, I think, 11 different American states.
Wow.
So I really love our country because I've seen so much of it. And and we really do have the best country in the world, even for all of its flaws, I would still choose here over anywhere else to raise a family and have kids, etc.
I love that. No, I love America. I'm a proud American. I mean, I love being abroad too, don't get me wrong. But no, I'm very grateful that I am born and raised here.
Yeah.
Can you fly a helicopter?
That's one thing I've always wanted to do. I've learned how to fly airplanes.
You can fly an airplane.
Yeah, and I've learned how to fly hand gliders or it's a hang glider, and I've learned how to parachute.
Wow.
But like I've always wanted to learn how to fly a helicopter.
Did they
It's
teach
so
you this in the
incredibly difficult.
CIA, or is this like extracurricular?
The Air Force taught me how to fly an airplane. So when I was in the Air Force, I went to pilot training and I got my private pilot's license, and I went on to fly turbo propeller jets or turbo propeller aircraft with the Air Force. And then on my own, I went and got into hang gliding because I always wanted to hang glide. The agency, well, a mix of the military into the agency is where I learned how to parachute. But that's not uncommon for a lot of folks who go through those training courses. But I really have fallen in love with air and wind-based energy. I love sailing. I love windsurfing. I love kite surfing. I even love just flying a freaking kite. There is so much power in Mother Nature that when you start to like tap into it, it's humbling. It's humbling to be reminded how weak and small we really are.
Oh, yeah.
Because a 5 foot by 10 foot triangle of cloth can help you fly in the sky. It's just amazing.
It's nuts. I mean, you want to see the power of Mother Nature? Go onto YouTube and search like big waves.
Yeah.
Like there
Oh my
are
gosh.
parts of the ocean where you would just be like beside yourself seeing the size of the waves. And some boats are designed to go through them. And so
It's
there's
incredible.
like all kinds of crazy footage on YouTube. I went down like a rabbit hole once recently, just watching like huge boats going through huge, like say, terrifying waves.
We spent time in Portugal recently, and you know, it's amazing. Two things are amazing about Portugal. One, the waves off the coast of Portugal, and Portugal's just a small European country, right? It's like the size of Connecticut or something. It's a tiny little place, and it's amazing to see how massive the waves are. It's like the surfing capital of the world in many ways, because the big waves are so big. But what's equally amazing is that despite those ridiculously terrifying waves, they were also one of the most prolific ocean vessel, like sailing countries in the world, right?
Wow.
The Portuguese colonized most of Africa. How in the hell did they do that? That means they built ships and set those ships into the ocean knowing they had to go through those waves. Oh my gosh, it's just incredible.
It's insane. Damn. What is the coolest weapon you've ever fired? Are you a marksman? Like,
No.
are you?
I literally failed the marksman exam.
Oh, interesting.
So I never got the marksman medal.
Interesting.
Right? I didn't miss it by a lot, but I never got it. So
Well,
I
you
could-
said earlier that you're not necessarily armed.
correct.
Right?
So I'm definitely not a marksman. But I don't, I feel like I'm not really one person. I'm not the right person to ask about cool weapons. I feel like arrows are cool. Like throwing knives are cool. Handguns are cool. 9mm are cool. High caliber weapons are cool. I never got really into them, mainly because I didn't use many of them, right? I'm not a gun person. I like guns. I like the Second Amendment, but I'm not one who ever got jazzed about them.
Are there tactics that you use to get out, like verbal tactics that you use to get out of altercations?
Yes. So we do a lot of learning how to de-escalate through verbal means, right? And it's especially difficult because oftentimes when you have to de-escalate verbally, you're doing it with somebody who's not as fluent in English as you are when you're an intelligence officer.
Interesting.
Right? So you're de-escalating with a police officer who speaks English as like a second or third language somewhere else in the world. So it's really, really difficult because so much of your de-escalation technique has to rely on nonverbal communication. So you try to speak as little as possible, and you try to speak as elementary as possible, while also demonstrating very like submissive nonverbal cues so that you can de-escalate the situation. And at least that's how I interpret your question, right? Maybe you don't mean de-escalate, maybe you mean like mental judo to get somebody to like, set you free or whatever else. But like while you might see that in movies and cartoons and media, most of what we do is very, very simple, very basic. You want to either escalate because it's in your best interest or de-escalate because it's in your best interest. But either way, you're the one that's trying to take control of the situation.
Fascinating. What are some of those nonverbal submissive cues?
So being open, So being open, we were talking about closed positions.
Yeah.
Open positions are vulnerable positions. And the human subconscious recognizes that the center of your kind of existence, the center of your energy, if you will, is your chest and the top part of your stomach. All of your vital organs exist here.
Like a cat. Like when I come home and my cat rolls over and shows me its belly, that's a sign of affection because it's showing me the most vulnerable part of its body.
Correct. You're interpreting it as affection. What the animal is doing is demonstrating to its alpha that it's submissive.
Wow.
Right. So that's essentially what you're trying to do. Now, what we call that feigned compliance, because we're not actually complying. We're just feigning that we're complying in order to see predictable behavior from the threat that's threatening us. And if we don't successfully move through de-escalation techniques, we might have to move into escalation techniques or conflict or physical violence or whatever else to make sure that we can extricate ourselves from the situation.
Wow. So if you are confronted by somebody, if you're in some sort of conflict and you want to attempt to de-escalate the situation, put your body, like, suggest openness with your body.
Open palms, open chest.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to close off. You don't want to turn sideways. Like, this is the kind of behavior that you're showing. You can keep eye contact, but you want to kind of turn your head down so that they don't feel like you're making yourself larger. You're actually making yourself kind of smaller. You're like, look, man, I'm not here to cause problems. I'm not here to make your life hard. I can get out of here in 2 seconds if you'll just let me go.
Wow.
Right? Like, you want my wallet? You can have my wallet. Like, everything I care about is sitting at home, right? In safe beds and behind locked doors. And there's nothing on me that you can't have right now.
Wow.
Like, you want to make it as easy as possible for them to just say yes to you. If they say yes to you, guess who's in control?
You're in control. Wow. So you want them to feel as unthreatened as possible.
Correct. And it goes completely against all the TikTok influencers and all the Instagram influencers that are like, when somebody puts a gun to your face, all you got to do is go whap, 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 whap.
Oh, no
And then
way,
take
dude.
control. That's the fastest way to get yourself shot.
Exactly.
Right? Like, just feign compliance, because guess what they don't want to do? They don't want to pull the trigger.
Right.
And the chances are that if they do pull the trigger, it's going to be because they either feel threatened or they have an accidental discharge. So your goal is just de-escalate and live another day.
Wow. Hands in pockets? Or is that...
Hands in pockets is threatening. They can't
that's
see the
threatening.
palms.
That's right. So keep your hands out of your pockets.
Yep. I mean, honestly, even if you just turn your palms out like this and put them down to your side,
Yeah.
like, look, man, what do you do when you're confused? Right?
Yeah, you shrug. Yeah. Wow. Dude, that's super useful. Holy moly.
There's there's a reason that I have a business. I call my company Everyday Spy. I wear the shirt, right? The reason I call it Everyday Spy is because one of the huge things that media gets wrong is that the most dangerous part of being a spy isn't being on an operation. You've trained for the operation. You've got equipment for the operation. You've got an entire support team for the operation. The most dangerous part about being a spy is everyday life. Because if you let your consistency slip, you sign a receipt in the wrong name, you carry your actual personal phone along with your operational phone, you log into your own personal email account from a computer that's in some other country, all of a sudden, you've just undermined your own operation and put yourself at real peril. It's all these everyday things, right? Making sure that you eat enough food for breakfast, making sure that you get enough rest, making sure that you don't use tap water when you brush your teeth. These simple everyday things can be catastrophic to your operational success. So our biggest concerns, the thing that we spend the most time preparing for, is how to be everyday people undercover, not operatives undercover.
Wow. Dude, so crazy, so cool. I feel like I'm a little bit closer to being James Bond after this conversation. Like a little bit.
That's the goal, man. That's a measure of success.
Yeah.
Right? And a little bit closer to being James Bond, we just compare that against where you started. And then that's how we really measure the progress.
Dude, I love it. Well, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap? Because I feel like I've learned a ton, but I mean, the floor is yours.
So, the thing that's always really important to me is I teach unfair advantages, right? Like, I'm out here, we're teaching spy hacks.
Yeah.
There are people who are listening to this right now saying, I don't know if I feel comfortable using those things, right? Like, that's what spies do. And spies are criminals. So why would I do those things? And it's been a real exploratory journey for me too, trying to build a business where I teach spy tactics, spy tools, spy tricks, right? The truth is, bad guys know how to do these things because they've learned from their bad guy friends, and they've learned in the school of hard knocks. They've learned in the street how to do these things. If good guys don't share these skills with each other, then the bad guys will always have the advantage. So the way I see it is, will I accidentally teach some bad guys? Are there criminals who watch my podcast and try to learn how to manipulate whatever? Yeah, for sure. But the vast majority of the people watching are good guys who will now be prepared to resist manipulation from a bad guy. So that's how I see it. And for me, it's a really important thing to understand in a transparent transactional world. There will always be good guys and bad guys. By being a good guy is not just choosing not to be a bad guy, right? Choosing not to be a bad guy is the same as choosing not to be a good guy. It makes you undecided. But if you choose to use bad guy skills to do good things, you're a good guy.
Couldn't agree more. Do you think in general that people should have combat skills, self-defense skills, be armed generally?
So those are three different things.
Yeah.
And I would say absolutely people should have self-defense skills. But that doesn't necessarily mean you need to have hand-to-hand combat skills, and it most certainly doesn't mean you need to be armed, right? A self-defense, you can have a self-defense skill by just having a alarm in your pocket, right? Like a digital alarm, where you pull a little cord and you have a personal alarm that sets off an alarm noise. Now you're safer. You're safer than you were without it.
Yeah.
Right? A whistle, you're safer than you were without it. Even something as simple as shoes with laces. If you have shoes with laces, you're basically wearing the safest footwear you can possibly wear.
Why is that?
Because sandals or flip-flops or anything else can slip off.
Yeah, you're right. Wow.
Right? Imagine having to run through a street that's got rocks and glass in it in flip-flops versus tennis shoes.
Like always be prepared to run.
Right. That's self-defense.
Wow.
So that's the kind of stuff I always want to encourage people to have, right? Just always kind of be thinking through a lens of personal security, not because you're afraid of the world, but because you're prepared for whatever unexpected thing the world might throw at you.
Yeah.
There's tons of value in that.
Yeah. My dad would always say, like, it's not about you being a good driver. You got to look out for the other guy.
Yeah, it's true, right? And it's, you get to be, you're saving lives every time you drive safely, because you're saving your own life and the lives of everybody who's around you.